The courtroom smelled like wax and regret. You know, that kind of heavy air that clings to your skin when you're standing in a place that's already decided who you are. Jack Teller stood there, his old leather jacket creaking, the faint jingle of a chain against his belt cutting through the silence. He wasn't what you'd expect in a place like this. No suit, no polished shoes, just a gray beard long enough to tell stories, boots that had walked more roads than most folks drive, and eyes that looked like they'd seen the devil and didn't blink. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to how Jack, a guy who'd spent half his life on a Harley, ended up in a small-town courthouse in Willow Creek, Tennessee, facing a judge who smirked like he'd already written the ending. So, Mr. Teller, Judge Harlan drawled, leaning back in his chair, you're telling me you were just, what, playing handyman on some poor widow's land? Another biker with a heart of gold, huh? The gallery snickered, a low ripple of judgment from folks who'd read one too many headlines about guys like Jack. Ex-con, outlaw, trouble. That's what they saw before he even opened his mouth. But Jack? He wasn't here to beg or charm. He just stood there, hands clasped, tattoos peeking out from under his cuffs, steady as a man who'd already buried his demons. He wasn't nervous, just tired. Tired of the world squinting at him through the lens of his past. See, Jack had a rap sheet, Sherbar fights, a theft charge from '89 that stuck like gum to his name, but that wasn't the whole story. Not even close. 3 weeks earlier, he'd been riding his '76 Panhead down a dusty back road, chasing the kind of quiet you only find when the world shuts up for a minute. He wasn't looking for trouble, wasn't looking for anything, really. Just him and the hum of his bike, the last friend that hadn't left him to cancer or concrete cells. Then he saw Ida's sagging fence line behind a weathered house, boards splintered like they were begging for help. Something in him stopped, not because he wanted a pat on the back, but because he knew what it was to live with things broken. He knocked on the door. A woman answered, maybe 60, eyes soft but cautious, hands calloused like she'd worked harder than life had been kind. Her name was Clara Dunn. I can fix your fence, Jack said. No preamble, no smile, just the offer. Clara hesitated. Wouldn't you, with a stranger like him at your door? But she nodded. Next day, he showed up with a toolbox and a thermos of coffee she'd left on the porch. No note, just there. He didn't know someone snapped a picture of him that day, hammer in hand, sweat on his brow. That photo would change everything. Back in the courtroom, the prosecutor, a guy named Victor Slade, strutted like he owned the truth. Crisp suit, slicked back hair, the kind of guy who'd sell his own ego if he could find a buyer. So, Jack, he said, voice dripping with sarcasm, you just happened to wander onto Mrs. Dunn's property, tools in hand, to fix her fence out of the goodness of your heart? No permission, no nothing. Jack nodded, slow, deliberate. That's right. Slade laughed, sharp and mean, turning to the judge. Your Honor, this man's a known member of the Iron Reapers, a motorcycle gang with a laundry list of felonies. And now he's Mother Teresa with a hammer? The crowd chuckled again, feeding off Slade's performance. Jack didn't flinch, didn't argue. He just reached into his jacket, fingers brushing a folded piece of paper that smelled faintly of Clara's kitchen lavender and old wood. That paper? It was a letter, handwritten, simple. To whom it may concern, I, Clara Dunn, asked Jack Teller to fix my fence on March 12th. He did it for free, with respect. I was never scared of him. He reminded me of my Tom. Signed, Clara Dunn. Jack slid it across the table. The judge's smirk faded, his eyes narrowing as he read. Why didn't you show this sooner, Mr. Teller? Jack's voice was low, steady. Didn't want to pull her into this mess. She's been through enough. And then, from the back of the room, a soft voice cut through the murmurs. He didn't pull me. I came. Every head turned. Clara Dunn stood there, brown sweater sagging at the shoulders, clutching her purse like it was armor. She wasn't loud, wasn't dramatic, but her words landed like a brick through glass. Irregular, she said when the judge tried to wave her off. Irregular is mocking a man for doing what's right. Slade jumped up. Objection, Your Honor, she's not a witness. But the judge, for the first time, looked rattled. She's the victim, Mr. Slade. Sit down. Clara didn't need a witness stand to be heard. She looked at Jack, her voice soft but unshakable. You reminded me of my Tom. He used to fix that fence every spring, before the cancer took him. When I saw you out there, hammering away, not asking for a dime, not even wanting my coffee. I felt safe again. The room went still, like the air itself was holding its breath. She reached into her bag, pulled out a faded photo of her husband, Tom, standing by that same fence, hammer in hand, boots caked in dirt. She handed it to the bailiff. The judge stared at it, then at Jack, then back at the photo. You could see it in his face, something clicking, something human. Outside, the world was already shifting. That photo of Jack fixing the fence. It had leaked online, spread like wildfire. Biker rebuilds widow's fence for free. Strangers started calling him the fence saint. A local DJ mentioned him on air. Jack didn't know any of T-Sheet, didn't own a smartphone, didn't care for likes or retweets. But the world was watching. And in the parking lot, 6 bikes gleamed under the sun, their riders waiting, not for a fight, but for their brother. Among them was Tommy Iron Walsh, Jack's oldest friend, holding a helmet, staring at the courthouse doors like they might spit out justice or spit on it. Think they'll see him for real? A younger rider asked. Iron grunted. Depends if they're looking. Inside, the judge's name was Harlan Brooks leaned back, rubbing his temple. He was thinking of a kid from his hometown, a roughneck named Billy who'd saved his dad from a burning barn and never said a word about it. Billy got labeled trash because of his last name, just like Jack. Harlan cleared his throat. Mr. Teller, why hold back this letter? Jack met his eyes. Didn't want it to feel like a stunt. Truth should be enough. Harlan tapped his gavel, not hard, just once. Maybe it is. The case didn't end with a bang. No dramatic music, no cheers. Just a quiet, case dismissed. Jack's shoulders eased, not because he'd won, but because someone had finally listened. Clara gave him the photo of Tom. Keep it, she said. He nodded, tucking it into his jacket, right where the letter had been. Outside, Jack stepped into the sunlight, the rumble of bikes greeting him like a heartbeat. Iron clapped his shoulder. You good, man? Jack's half-smile said it all. Getting there. The riders rolled out. Not loud, not showy, just steady. Locals Wachita's shopkeeper tipped his hat. A kid waved. Jack didn't see it. He didn't need to. For the first time in years, he wasn't running from his shadow. Days later, Slade showed up at Jack's garage. No tie, no cameras. Got it wrong, he said, handing over a folder dismissed charges, an apology, and a photo of Jack helping a kid fix a bike tire at a charity run. Jack shrugged. Some debts don't get paid in court. They shook hands, not friends, but 2 men meeting in the middle of something honest. A week later, Jack rode back to Clara's. She was tending a rosebush that hadn't bloomed since Tom died. She's coming back, Clara said, smiling. A girl from down the road ran up, holding 2 drawings, one of Jack with his hammer, another of his bike with wings. You made Mom believe in people again, she said, hugging him quick before darting off. Clara watched, eyes soft. Her dad's gone. She hasn't talked much till now. Jack rode home that night, the letter and drawings tucked safe in his tin. He didn't need the world to call him a hero. He just needed to be seen. And for once, it had. But here's the thing, justice isn't always a gavel or a handshake. Sometimes it's just a fence, a photo, a moment where the world stops lying about you. What do you think? Does a man's past define him, or do his actions? Drop a comment, tell me where you're watching from, and let's talk about the times you've seen someone misjudged. Hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more stories that remind us the truth doesn't always wear a suit, it rides in leather and dust.